Kia ora, and welcome to Constellations and All That. I'm your host, Tracy Cartwright, and together we will be exploring the world of family constellations with facilitators and clients from around the world, looking at different perspectives and experiences in the work, having a cup of tea and just chatting with some friends around their experiences in constellations. We'd love for you to join us. I hope that you enjoy this series as much as I have loved making it. Kia ora everyone, and welcome to Constellations and All That. Today I have the pleasure of chatting with Rodrigo Hagar. Hagar?
Great.
Say it right.
Very fine, very fine.
Before we go any further, I just want to note that I'm looking at my clock and it says 111. So for me, I'm when I see numbers like that, it's like, there's always something in that. And so I just felt like I really needed to acknowledge that
Fine.
just as we started, that our numbers have aligned up and yeah, beautiful. Thank
Well,
you
that
so
gives me an
much. Yeah.
no, thank you, Tracy. Thank you for this invitation. I was very much looking forward for this conversation. So, well, let's go in it. I'm very grateful for
Oh,
this invitation.
fantastic. So you and I
Mhm.
met last year in
Yeah.
Mexico,
Hmm.
and you are a friend of mine, Natalia
Hmm.
Bolian who is
Yeah.
in Auckland. Yeah.
Hmm.
And a
Yeah.
facilitator. You've
Yeah.
known her for a long time. So she reached out to me and said, hey, I know my friend Rodrigo is going to be at the same event. So connect. So that
Hmm.
was a really beautiful moment like of connection. And then I had the pleasure of coming to your workshop.
Well,
I'm gonna jump into that.
let's
Sorry,
go.
I interrupted you.
No, no.
But I first of all, before I start that, I've got so many things lighting up. Sometimes when I start a conversation, it's like, oh, where am I going? But it's like all of these things are lighting up. First of
Mhm.
all, I'm going to invite you to please share a little bit about yourself so that the listeners and the viewers can get a taste of who you are.
Well, I'm a father and husband here in Chile. I live in the south of Chile, in Villarrica. It's a place with a lot of forests and nature. I live in the countryside, enjoying the mountains next to a volcano. And well, I'm a clinical psychologist from 18 years now, and I'm a systemic constellation facilitator since it's 12, no, 18 years as a psychologist and 12 years as a systemic facilitator. And well, also a musician, a writer.
Mm.
I've got some books there, some musical discs and songs also in, I don't know, in YouTube and Spotify. And well, somebody that loves what he does, a loving man with my wife, with my children, and now studying Jungian psychology from now 2 years studying Jungian psychology, and well, hoping to end that career this year, you know, in 2026, I hope. So well, that will be maybe
Great.
some
It's
introduction.
yeah,
Mhm.
great introduction. Um, One of the questions I usually ask, so I'll jump
Mhm.
straight into that, is how did constellations find you? When was your first
Mhm.
experience with it?
It was 2006. I was living a huge crisis, no, a huge breakdown with a psychotherapist that in Chile was the one of the people who brought Hellinger to Chile,
Mhm.
and and he told me about this family constellations issue. I had listened to it 1 year before, but without knowing. No, I didn't go to any workshop. So with him, he talked to me about these family constellations. It was these years when Hellinger didn't have an official training in family constellations. So
Mm.
seeing him, going to his workshops, you learned the method, no? So so well, he told me about this, and Bert went to Chile in 2006, and I went to a workshop and a talk of him. And well, that was like a very moving experience, you know. It was like realizing this kind of I think that in two big levels, you know. In one level, this kind of realization of the structure of life as an energetic form but very grounded also, no, in the family, in what is
Yeah.
family. No, it was like huge. Well, if you've been, I don't know, close to Bert Hellinger, it was like a lot of energy in his presence, no? So it was like,
No, I never had the opportunity. Well, not
okay.
in the physical.
Well,
I've
yeah,
I've
for
had some
sure.
experiences, but not in the physical. Hmm.
But maybe you have noticed, no, the great amount of energy. Well, we can see it in all the people that shared with him, that get trained with him, no?
Hmm.
And well, I will say that in that first level, in the energetic realm, like this spiritual consciousness of uh, the structure of spiritual realm in some sense that I've never seen before. You know, I've had some experiences in that time with Buddhism, with also with shamanism, southern in South America shamanism, and it was completely different. You know, and kind of had a dialogue with what I loved the most in that moment, that was psychology. So it was very, very moving. And in the second place, I will say that it was the realization that a spiritual path had to have great roots in family, you know, and in the acknowledging your process in what has to be with your place in your family. And that was completely shocking in that moment for me. I was like, I don't know, I was 23 years old, trying to get rid of, I don't know, all what in that time I conceived as limitations, and it was like that consciousness, that clarity, that what Bert said, no, it's like there's no spiritual path that is divorced from this taking place in what your family system is, no, and that was
Yeah, I think
very, yeah.
sometimes people take the spiritual path or go searching
Mhm.
on a spiritual path because they're seeking another family, right? They're
Yeah,
seeking
yeah.
to get away
Yeah.
from their family or seeking some sort of connection because of the disconnection.
Yeah, and that's in some senses of disconnection. It doesn't have to be maybe with the methods in themselves. No, I don't know. If you change your name or you do that thing, that's great. In some senses, you are maybe expanding your identity. No, but if you do the bypass, what is called the spiritual bypass in transpersonal psychology, well, that there's the problem, I think. And I think that I was living a kind of spiritual bypass in that moment. No, that was like kind of having me very troubled in the inside, and that clarity gave me a new path that I started to walk. And well, this thing that constellations just took me. You know, I had the first training, this psychotherapist that became a kind of mentor to me, and then my teacher in family constellations opened this training in 2009. I took that training, um, and then I waited 4 years when I was very scared of starting to open groups because I didn't feel I had the abilities to do that. And well, when my wife, uh, when my first son was in way to born, well, I decided I will start doing now these workshops. It was 2014 monthly workshops, and when I haven't stopped in 12 years now, each month, you know, doing this.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. So you said you talk to Bert Hellinger at that first meeting?
No,
No?
no, it was very funny, you know. I was 23 years. I was in a huge breakdown, very insightful, but in this kind of troubled insight, you know,
Yeah.
not getting too much clues about myself, and I used to smoke in that time, and this was in a university in Chile, in the center of Chile, a very urban town, you know, with a lot of dust in the air, you know, and all that. So, and I was like, we were in a break in this workshop, and okay, I lighted a cigarette, and I went to a place where I could see the street, and I was seeing the street, and suddenly I looked to my right, and it was Bert there standing up, alone, looking, I don't know, in a sight, maybe I don't
Mm.
know, like an open sight.
Yep.
I maybe, I don't know, having a rest, maybe trying to not look to me so I would ask something. I don't know, but I was a kid in that moment
Mm.
in many senses. And I didn't know what to say to him. That's the truth. No, it was like I saw him, and I just get like, I had an impact with his sight. He was like looking like to a place I don't know where, but very far away in some sense. I'm very close in the other way, very present, no, and I didn't know what to say, no, and I just remaining there, smoking my cigarette, like doing as if nothing happened, but sharing some kind of silence with Bert Hellinger. I don't know what would have been
Mm.
5 minutes, maybe. And well, then I went back, you know, to the place, and it had like that was my closest experience with him, and the other was just expecting
Yeah.
and being participant in the workshop.
And I've heard from others that you didn't even need to talk to him, that his presence
Mm.
was so, like so that sometimes he
Yeah,
would put
yeah,
someone in the
huge.
hot seat beside him and he would just sit there with
Mm,
them
mm.
and that was
It
it. He
was
would
very
say, "Are we
huge.
done?"
Hmm, hmm.
Or "We are
I
done."
remember. I
Mm.
remember that sense now that I recall it, no, that sense of like of going into the inner, no, when I was with him there, it looked like okay, well, it was like if when you are doing like I don't know Zen meditation, you know, like you have to get straight, like okay, and just smoking my cigarette and looking to the street, like having to maybe have a synchronize with that presence, no, in some sense.
Mm.
Maybe that I can recall it, but yeah, it was very moving without saying anything,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Maybe in that time I needed, and I'm something about somehow sure about that. I need. That was a time when I needed a lot of silence in my mind, you know, in my
Beautiful. Yeah.
daily life. So maybe, yeah,
Great
yeah,
pairing.
but a huge presence. Yeah, he had
Mm.
a huge presence. Yeah.
Yeah. Admiring your cup. I mentioned to you earlier how gorgeous,
Yeah,
for those
these
who can see
mushrooms.
Rodrigo on the screen, he's got the most gorgeous cup. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my wife's gift. Yeah, mushrooms in here. Well, we have a pretty fine mushroom culture in here in Villarrica. We have some festivals, you know, around mushrooms. So it's a very interesting topic in here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's growing, I think, globally, but is
Mhm.
that therapeutic mushrooms or all mushrooms?
All mushrooms.
Mm.
um, from I don't know psilocybin to this I don't know the names in English, but reishi, you know, all that's
Reishi,
the
Chinga, lion's mane, yeah,
that's what that
those
and
health
all the
ones. Yeah.
others, but all the others also, yeah.
Yeah, I
Which you can
make
eat.
cacao and I quite often will put mushrooms in my
Mm,
cacao when the calling happens, like
mhm.
of depends on what I'm really called to put in. But yeah, it's an added bonus. And I have thought about making a blend with some reishi or something like that in it, but
Mhm,
there are
mhm.
others doing that. I yeah, I make my
It's
own
always fine to
paste.
have yeah, I think that it's always fine to have support in that processes, you know, when
Yeah.
you're knowing mushrooms because the body reacts to them, and sometimes you are ready for them, I think, and sometimes you don't, you know, and in my experience they always move something in you. It's like a therapeutic intervention in some sense that needs further elaboration maybe, or see that you are in a good place to have them, I think. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. When you're meeting people and they're asking you what you do, and maybe you go to a dinner and they say, "So what do you do?" How do you
Mhm.
explain family constellation?
Well, I always say, yeah, that's a very good question. I always say that family constellations is a method, a therapeutic intervention that works with the way in which the family past is influencing your present. So, from a problem that you have, you open a field to explore in which way that unconscious forces that are always acting on you appear, and in some way may have to be or be in relationship with your trouble, no, your actual trouble.
Hmm.
And I think that's it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love there are so many different ways to describe it, and yet it all means the same thing for me. When
Yeah.
you understand it, I guess. But and I always ask that question because I feel like someone will describe it in a certain way, and there'll be someone that hears that and just goes, "Boom, light bulb, I get that." And then
Hmm, hmm.
they'll hear it from someone else, will hear it from someone else, and it's the same for them, like
Yeah, yeah, from another dimension or from another point of view. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely,
There
yeah.
there are a lot of forms, and well, sometimes what I do is like trying to explain a little bit more, no, about how what happens. I think that there's a notion about how life works in this kind of work. If I go to a dinner with, I don't know, transpersonal psychologists or with other facilitators in family constellations, will be very different from people that I don't know don't know the method. So
Yeah.
I think that there's a notion about how life works that's very part of this, and has to be with, I don't know, life knows, life learns, and it's in continuous movement, learning about the experiences, and we are
Mm.
kind of instruments of life that need to help that learning to happen. And in the sense that we don't contribute with our consciousness to that learning, we make symptoms about it, with our behaviors, with our bodies. And I think that that's dynamic notion for me is very useful. I try to also share it in my trainings, in my.
So you're teaching constellations?
Yeah, I missed to tell you that I have a training since 2019 in Chile. And now, well, we have it in two cities in here in Chile, in Pucón, that's a city very next to Villarrica, where I live in the south, and in Santiago, that's the capital in Chile. So, well,
Hmm.
I've been 7 years offering this training, and now wonderful. We have an institute in here in Chile called Farfalla Institute. That means like, well, means butterfly, but means soul and means psyche
Wow.
in
Yeah.
Italian. And well, we have developed some training. My wife also works with women, in supporting women's processes. And we have developed some training also in specialization in family constellations, in trauma, especially in personal trauma, and now in collective trauma and other issues for already trained facilitators. So
Oh, so is your wife a facilitator also?
no, no family constellation. She's
Oh.
she's also a psychotherapist, and works a lot with women's circles, with
Mm.
uterus healing and all that approach. And it's also she also works in the psycho juridical area, with lawyers and all that. I know it to
Ah,
spell it in
the
English.
judicial area. Yeah.
Yeah, judicial area from the psychology, and well, so she makes a very fine integration in the two worlds, and
Because that's like two very different worlds, isn't it? From
seem to be, no, but
ju
but uh,
judicial
but if
to
you,
womb work. Yeah. But
yeah,
beautiful.
that's right. And if you look at it, there's some points that cross both areas. For example, I don't know, to know your own rights in what respects to your body, in what respect to having a place in society, in what place has in society. I don't know, all the old and ancient knowledge of women,
Yeah.
about nature, about processes, change, transformation, etc., etc. Well,
Mm.
it's her area, but it's been wonderful seeing her unifying these fields that I don't know. This kind of I think that we share that, no, and not only in doing family, but in our institute of like a
Mm.
spirituality with critical thinking. It's like kind of not getting rid of critical thinking because it does not have to be in conflict, with profound spirituality. Like,
Yeah.
but it has to be in service, I think, of the soul, not vice versa. Maybe the conflict arises when it's vice versa. So well, that's
Fantastic.
like what she does. Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. I was thinking about when I met you and I came to your
Hmm.
workshop and we were all sitting in there in the room and I realized I was one of I think at that time,
Hmm.
at the beginning, there was only two people in the room that spoke English, or three, you, another Latin American lady who was living in South America, and myself.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I was really called to come to your workshop. And
Hmm. Hmm.
sitting
Hmm.
there, and then my friend came into the room, and just as she came in, was just the lights went out, and we were in a
Yeah,
room with no
yeah,
windows.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
was like
yeah,
it was
yeah.
fantastic. And they stayed out for a good maybe minute, maybe two, I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe
Felt like
maybe
a long
five
time.
minutes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And when the lights came on, someone was already in the field and the constellation had started. And I
yeah.
was really taken by surprise. But I
Mhm.
also observed your response.
Yeah,
because I was like,
yeah.
oh, my mind goes to, oh, how's Rodrigo going to work
Thank
with
you.
this? And
Yeah.
you handled it so beautifully because,
Hmm.
you may have had an idea of what you were going to do for that day, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
field completely took over,
yeah, yeah,
completely.
yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
that was just the case. No, I had this structure of the workshop. It was going to be about personal trauma. That was an issue that we have been working in 2025, and well, I have this stage one, stage two, and I tried to go from that stages to the other, and well, first the lights turned off, and it was okay. So well, I remembered saying something like, let's give thanks for this, no, let's surrender to this, and well, then this person get very very taken, with
just
the
very
field,
activated, yeah, very
very
activated.
activated, and she was not the only one. In the first place, I thought, okay, I received that, and I tried to do some work. Then it was kind of resolved, the movement of her, that she was very taken with an indigenous anger,
Yeah.
and then
So if I
and then
remember rightly, just about
yeah,
every South American country was actually represented in that room somehow, right? There was people from all different,
yeah,
well, maybe not all of them, but from
yeah,
a
yeah,
large percentage. It wasn't just
yeah,
Mexicans or people from Chile. There was
yeah,
like people from all over South America. So it was quite, there
yeah,
was a lot of that anger around the
yeah.
colonization and yeah,
Anger, yeah, it was about that subject. It was finally a constellation about systemic trauma, collective
yeah,
systemic trauma, around the indigenous trauma, and also about the forgiveness. I think about the in what it, or at least some kind of reconciliation. Um, and well, I just renounced to that program I had, when I
mm,
saw that after my intervention, nothing, this issue was going to continue. Uh, I don't know, pushing, to appear to in this place. So I looked at the other people, and there was a lot of people that was taken for this with this. No, I remember some women saying that he was like feeling, I don't know if you remember, blood, and
yeah,
um, and a lot of intense topics, issues that started to appear. And well, it was a great constellation. I ended very grateful and surprised also, but very
mm,
moved, because the issue about systemic trauma is, I think, one of the mainstreams of my interests right now,
yeah,
and I'm working with it a lot. I've also worked with it in 2025 with another colleague in here, with Felipe Landaeta, who is also a psychologist, and well, it appeared, and it was very intense. And I thought, okay, I have to take this. It seems that it's like kind of looking for me in some sense.
yeah, yeah.
And well, take that. And now for this year, I put a new part of my training that has to be specifically with systemic trauma. And
Yeah.
I think that I have to work in it. And it was very beautiful also, because well, all the people that was in there was very moved. You also had a very main paper in the constellation. I remember, like,
A main part. I didn't like. I
yeah,
remember standing
yeah,
there going
yeah.
because most of it wasn't in English, and that was
Hmm,
fine.
hmm.
That was absolutely fine. And it was that real. I had to really. I just had to drop out of my human ego, like
Mhm, mhm,
because there
mhm.
was one moment I'm going, what am I doing here? Am I
Yeah.
meant to be here? Is this the right place for
Mhm,
me? And I just, as soon as I asked that question, I got pulled
mhm.
energetically around to the other side of the room, and I
Yeah,
was like, oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
I'm meant to be here.
yeah. It was
So
it was very kind of also like kind of psychedelic experience. It was like very very intense for everyone, I think. And but I think because we kind of created the space to that to happen. I think, I don't know if that kind of experience can happen every day. We were all trained facilitators maybe, and that gave space to that. I think. I'm thinking about it, and it
yeah,
was like,
I
well,
think the
the
right
main,
people, the right people came together for that to
yeah.
be held, and you held it so beautifully. It was
Mhm.
an amazing
Thank you. Hmm,
um, process to
hmm,
witness. And you
hmm.
also you sang as well. You had
Yeah.
your guitar, and I think if I remember rightly, was that right?
It
You
was a
had
drum,
an
a drum,
instrument, a
a
drum. You had a
djembe.
drum. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I knew you had some instrument, but I knew,
Hmm.
yeah, it was beautiful, really, really
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's wonderful. It was wonderful. I think, and sorry, it made me make a shift, I think, in my work. Like I have already been introducing more and more my singing, my drums, and from October 2025, I don't know, I now it's much more present than before. So I
Mm,
use it a lot, and it's
mm,
closer to what I'm doing. And not in all constellations I used it. I use it, the singing or the drums, but it's
yeah.
very much closer.
Well,
Mm.
that's the same for me as well. Once I
Mhm.
said
Mhm.
yes to it, because it
Mhm.
was it was kept coming up into the field, it kept pulling me to,
Mhm.
like even just making a drum, having a drum was
Mhm.
the field talking to me saying I needed it.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
my voice, like bringing the sounds through, and once
Very powerful
it,
voice.
it, it really
Yes.
enhances and makes it so
Hmm.
much more powerful because you're
Well,
cutting through, right, with that energy of sound, and
yeah,
allowing the drum to support. Mm.
yeah. I think that's one of the contents of family constellations or systemic constellations in general that I most have taken the most of my love in this moment. It's like um, that part that has to be with rituals, with like kind
Mm.
of gathering as a community, singing,
Yeah.
listening to the sounds, healing or making integrations, thanks to the
Mhm.
sounds. I think I had this like very intense experiences in Mexico. There were like 3 days that were very intense for me. And Tuesday I had my own experience with Alexandra from Brazil, who did this workshop, and I was very moved. With it had to be with singing also.
Mm.
The next day I was very moved in the inner, and I did this workshop that where I don't know, this collective unconscious eruption happened, and it was okay. I will give myself to this. I will surrender.
Mm.
um, and it was very moving. And the day afterwards, I had your workshop about the mountain constellations. That was very, very moving also for me. I would say to you that I haven't
Mm.
said it to you before, but I'm still working on it. Like
Yeah.
this contact with the inner mountains, personal and ancient mountains, and personal and ancient rivers. I like making kind of spoiler of your workshop, but it was very, very moving,
Beautiful. Yeah.
very moving, and like made me confirm belief that I have an hypothesis that family constellations has all to be with nature, with
Mm.
some kind of structure of nature working in
Yeah.
us, and families are not divorced from that order, from that structure. So,
Yeah.
mm,
So
mhm,
I don't know if you've
mhm,
heard, I know you've heard some of
mhm,
my podcasts, and I share that
yeah,
for me,
mm,
I know that the work came through Bert Hellinger, that in the
mhm,
form that
yeah,
we know it,
mhm,
as in family
mhm,
constellations and the psychology and
mhm,
all of that. But for
yeah,
me, it's ancient. It comes
mm,
from
yeah,
our people of the fire. I believe that we're tapping into that, into that multidimensional field, and tapping into the
mm,
wisdoms and the things that our ancestors would have, just it would have been so natural, and that
yeah,
for them. And as we've come into civilized, quite
yeah,
air quotes,
yeah,
we've lost that a lot.
yeah,
So,
mhm,
and Hellinger brought the threads back, and
yeah,
in a way
yeah,
that could be understood in a more modern way. And then
mm,
some of us are finding our way back through with the energy side of it, the medicine that comes in it as well. I'm not going to say shamanism because there's a lot to do with that. And it is that, I guess, in that way. But
yeah, yeah. I believe so. There are points of convergence between both forms, shamanism and family constellation or systemic constellations. There are encounter points. I think.
yeah.
Well, all the work
And
I've
and
done with
some
cancer.
facilitators come at it
Yeah.
strictly from a
Mm, mm,
theoretical
mm.
psychology angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
others can blend the two.
Yeah, yeah. I love to think that both sides can get into dialogue, and join together. For me,
Mm.
the psyche, I'm a psychologist, and that side is never away from me. I like look
Mm.
like a psychologist a lot what I do, but for me, the psyche doesn't end in the individual realm. and going further than inclusive social psychology. It has to be with spirituality and the
Mm.
psyche as a realm in itself. So I'm very much Jungian in that sense, no, more than I don't know classical cognitive or like behavioral psychology. So, well, I believe the same. We kind of, I try to do in my trainings this integration, between like a kind of well-grounded theoretical background, but with a very alive experience. It's like you don't have to divorce both realms. I think that I believe that premise is like few things are more practical than a good theory, and that's in some senses, like let you move, in what you are doing. But I think that that theory has to be in service for the soul. Um,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the good place reason has to have in our world, and I think it's completely overvalued. And I don't know, in all the corners. Maybe it doesn't have to be in all the corners so much.
I concur. How have you seen family constellations, if you don't mind sharing, how have
Mhm.
you seen it shift or evolve through your own family system?
I think that family constellations clearly made me do some in my life. After a workshop where I assisted in, I don't know, 2008, something like that, I had this image of like going to take my life, and my family like getting in my back, like supporting me, but me also like saying to no to a lot of things in my family origin. That was something that I hadn't integrated since that moment. Like I was like this kind of bad interpretation of Hellinger words about like submission, like taking your family without without differentiating what's yours and what's not yours in some sense. In that sense, I'm very close to the work of Wilfred Niels. I don't know if about the no to the father. It's like, or to the mother, the no to our parents. It's also important to then take them completely. If we cannot
Mm,
differentiate from them, it's more difficult to make an honest grounding in our own life. So I had this experience where I could advance, and after that workshop, I took a lot of radical decisions. Like I was very taken with this movement. So I was living with my parents. I had 26 years. I lived home. I ended a relationship. I quit my job. It was like, whoa, something like grew from me from the inside out. And well, I had this great shift in my life, and start living in another way. And music
yeah.
arose with more force. I wrote my first book. I do like a lot of things happened, and now I will say that family constellations help me every day to be more conscious in what I'm doing, especially with my
Mm,
kids. It's like in that
yeah.
sense, I always like try to refer to what I'm doing in this work to look to my daily life in a different way. And it has helped me a lot. I always use it, and it's very healing to me to offer workshops and return home. It's like I get home with new energies, and looking to my kids in a more ordered way.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
Saturday, Saturday, Sunday.
Mhm.
Thursday, I'm already right, like getting involved again in all the things that I have to look, mainly the work with my shadows, and
Mhm. Yeah.
well, when I return to work, I think that light opens again. So I think that it is doing something. I don't think I have trouble in seeing like accomplishments in that word, in that sense, no, of what family constellations had brought to me. I think that I'm
Mhm.
doing this work, I'm very much an apprentice of
Yeah.
life. I think yet, no, I'm bringing up my children, and sharing with my wife. It's like I try to be very,
It's
yeah.
amazing, beautiful that
Mhm.
your children get to benefit from, all of
Mhm.
this and the awareness and the consciousness of what you are
Mhm.
and how you parent and how you show up in the
Mhm.
world and the difference that makes for your children. And and your future generations. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I hope they, well, when they go to the psychologist at the age of 23, they can have a a good process, you know. And I don't know, I can go to the sessions, you know, and participate. No,
Yeah.
that's they're hoping that I can see them in their autonomy. You know, it's like I think that's maybe the most challenging issues of being a parent, at least for me. It's like knowing them, you know, how are they, and how can I
Mm.
help them to be who they are. You know, it's so easy maybe sometimes to repeat these patterns, you know, being like, you know, your own father, mother, and like
Sometimes
taking away.
it's so unconscious, right? It's that blind
Yeah.
love, and we don't realize how much we're being that like that person.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. A lot. And maybe we have to do this insight afterwards. You know, you see what we have done.
Mm.
Oh, so, yeah, I was pretty much like my father. No, it was my mother speaking for me. And I think that
Mm.
awareness, as you said, is gold. You know, it's gold for our children if we can, like, kind of not get rid of it, but going forward. You know, like
I
doing something
remember
else.
just that
Mm,
that's brought in like a memory for me because I had a real journey with drugs and alcohol and stuff. And at
mhm,
one point, I was in a real, we'll say that when in the height of it, I had a moment when I heard you were just like Dad, and I went to argue with that voice,
mhm,
and I realized, oh, because that would have been the one thing I was trying to avoid. You know,
mhm,
what was,
mhm.
my dad had his addictions as well,
Yeah.
and then I
Yeah.
realized I was just being like him. And when I was able to acknowledge that and take that in, and now I know that it was a way, an unconscious way of being closer to him, because on the human level, there wasn't the capacity for that at that
Mhm,
time. But then once I got to that point, and then that shifted, and I started
mhm,
to take a different direction. And then because I think part of me had also held Dad in that space of where he had been, but he'd moved on as
mhm,
well. He'd moved on and
mhm,
was
mhm,
being a very different person.
mhm.
But I was
Oh,
stuck in that. This
yeah,
is my
well,
relationship to them. And
yeah.
so I started to move on as well. And then we started to be able to converge and have a very
Mm,
different relationship. So that
mhm.
that realizing
Wonderful.
the unconsciousness of being like your parents and having those unwanted but can be very useful insights.
Well, it's the way in which we unconsciously belong, you know, I think, and it's in my experience, it's like a so soft and innocent way of loving, the way in which we can be able to sacrifice ourselves. You know, it's like really wanting to go with our parents in that movement. It's the
Mm,
way we have, the way we know to love.
mm,
And I think that acknowledging that with love, with compassion, maybe was your case, not like it led us to do another movement, to take
mm,
our own lives. So
mm.
well, thank you for sharing me that. No, it was like very very moving. I think that that work maybe uh, is progressive in life. I think that we
Yeah,
will find
absolutely.
another stuff when we get older, you know.
There'll be another layer of it. Ah, I've done that
Of
all my life.
course.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I always get kind of with suspicion, you know, when somebody tells me, no, I've already had the constellation of my father, no, I've already had the constellation of my mother. It's done, no? Like Bert Hellinger said, it's like, wait for death to say that you are ready with all that. No?
Yes, yes. Yeah, lifelong learner. Gosh, and it's yeah, so much. There's so much to unpeel, but
Yeah.
it makes life entertaining at
Mm.
times and interesting
I think that
and,
that's why
and grateful.
I wonderful. Wonderful. Maybe all these practices led us to go to have a nice time in the ocean, you know. It's like having a
Mm.
way to dive in it. But finally, it's so big and intense and chaotic how life unfolds itself that then the best we can do is to know how to live it, enjoying it, I think, being
Mm.
also chaotic and being in good terms with our own chaos, with the parts we like and the ones where we don't. That sometimes very
Yeah.
difficult, to be compassionate with oneself. But I think that when we do that, something unblocks, something like starts to flow in a different way. And I think that maybe family constellations, systemic constellations, are ways of like, as Hellinger said, like receiving these gifts from truth. But truth is something like very ephemeral, that appears and
Mm.
then returns back. So that gifts let us dive better, and maybe in some sense have this glimpse, or that progressively start to be the way in which we breathe our life, where we live our life. Um, so, well, welcome the chaos. We have to welcome the chaos.
Yeah, welcome to chaos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
It is.
mistakes, and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard, like, well, I think I had this conversation with someone a little while ago about,
Mhm,
once you know it through a constellation lens, it's very
mhm.
difficult uh, to unsee things through that lens, if
Yeah,
that's the filter that you're looking through.
yeah. I believe the same. See, yeah, that shifts our form of seeing things.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Tell me a little bit more about your music. I'd love to hear about that and maybe
Mm,
drop some lines here for people to be able to find
mhm.
you. I think you said you're on Spotify.
Great, yeah. You can follow me always in Instagram. It's the easiest way. Rodrigo Hagar, Rodrigo Hagar, all
Mhm.
together. And with my name in YouTube, also you can find my music. Rodrigo Hagar with H in the beginning. And well, I've always been a musician, I think. When I was a kid, I don't know, 5 years old, 6 years old, I like started to invent my own music in my head, and then I started to play the piano, and then the
Mm.
guitar, and singing a lot.
Yeah,
I also composed with in that years and 90s. I used like with the computer, so I had this I could write music directly with like orchestral music with, I don't know, violins and bass and
right.
electric
Yeah.
guitars and drums. So I had like this compositor part, of musician, and
Composer,
also
yeah.
a composer, sorry, composer, and also like singing and playing the guitar. And well, I've done a lot of music and also being part of some groups, with whom we won some funds here in Chile. So we recorded, our CD, our records, and
Yeah.
and we had some tours in Chile. And well, and now, music is very intense because I always have this like kind of spiritual relationship with music,
Mm.
especially with drums. I knew the djembe I don't know, 20 years ago. I don't know the djembe, if you know it. It's this
Yeah.
African drum,
Yeah.
and I started to play it in that 2005, something like that, 2003. And well, it's kind of a way of getting very in touch with my soul, with nature, of doing also catharsis for me, and like expressing myself, and
Mm.
I use it a lot in systemic facilitation also. It's a way of sometimes after a constellation, I play a little drum, a little singing to kind of interpretate what has just happened. It's a way of like, okay, let's do the digestion, with
Yeah.
music,
Is
and that
is this
helps
for
me.
like for a one-on-one or just in group?
Just in group, just in
Yeah.
group. I've never, I haven't thought that before. Maybe I could.
Mm.
I use it a lot with groups, but maybe in the one-on-one, I have to be able to introduce it. Well, I'm in that process right now, like kind of getting rid since, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, of this role of the psychologist. That sometimes get very, very formal. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not being always too much formal, but well, as a humanistic psychotherapist, you never can be too formal, no? But well, the introduction of music, of course, that changed things. So maybe I will do it. I will take this
Mm.
idea from this conversation too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
And what about
Mm.
like drum circles? Do you do anything like that? Like if you're
Not yet, not yet. I've been in some of them in here in Chile, but I'm not offered them yet. I'm very close to start doing that, like drum circles or singing circles
so,
or
so you
spontaneous
saw
movement.
my drum, right? My hand drum. That well, it's I've got a
Mm.
few of them. Just the hand
No.
drum, not the djembe. Just
But it's what like the shamanic drum, isn't it?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
See.
I'm a doula with drum doula, so I help people to
Mm,
birth drums.
wonderful,
Um,
wonderful.
and that was a journey in itself. But from that,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, we started to do, I had people asking to do circles and stuff, and I had no idea.
Mm.
I didn't know how to read music. It was none of that. So what
Uh,
we started doing was, and someone would come, and then we had a couple of people that played the djembe and some that
mhm.
did the shamanic drums, and we had great big drums and all sorts of things. We even had
Yeah.
one from a like a Highland band, like the big
Mm.
one that they
Yeah,
wear
yeah,
on the
yeah.
front.
Boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so we would just jam together and at the
Mm.
beginning we all sounded terrible for about the first couple of minutes. And then
Mhm.
then you would because you would hear the sound, right? And we'd all be trying to find our space in the field.
Yeah.
And it was like a cacophony of like
Mm.
screeching cats. And then we would all find our place, and you'd hear something over here, and you'd follow that sound, and then a sound over here would take you, and it was just
Mm.
beautiful. And we would go for probably about 40 minutes around. So we would do it.
Mhm.
We'd just play it, and you'd go from
Wonderful.
highs and lows, and then you'd
Mhm.
get to a point where it was like a huge
Wonderful.
crescendo of
Mm.
very, very
Yeah.
high energy, beautiful.
Mhm. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and then we'd all come back down and then it would slowly end off and that would be around and we'd all be sitting there going,
Mm.
wow, did you guys
What a
feel that? Like
what a journey.
it
So
was a ride. It was such a
what
ride.
a
And then we'd
yeah.
stop and have a cup of tea and then
Mhm.
we'd have another round and maybe it got as high or maybe it didn't. Maybe it was, who knows, but
Mhm.
we'd always
Mhm.
do sort of
Mhm.
like two parts to it. And that was fun. We haven't done that for quite some time, but really
Well,
healing for people as well. Really healing.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I think
Sometimes
that
people
I'm
just
still.
came to be in it, to hear the sounds and to dance around
Mm.
the background or
Mm.
um
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that we have so much a lack of that in our culture, in the conventional culture. And so we need this returning to the body, I think.
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
so trained since we were children, to like this focus in our intellects,
Mm.
and this like well the unseen body, the unseen uh, eros in our body.
Yeah.
I hope to be in New Zealand in one of your drum circles in some time. Maybe we'll have
We'd love
some
to have
trip.
you out here. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. I'm back on your music again because that really interests me. Have you found that through your music, through your composing of music, that
Mhm.
you've created or brought through any constellation songs?
Not yet, not yet. I think that I'm a kind of product in production process, in that sense.
Mm, mm.
I've I've taken a lot of years to gather music with constellations or music with therapy. That's very rare. I don't know. Maybe I think that I had to pass some years without doing this because I don't know. That was my path, of
Yeah.
like getting foremost as a psychotherapist, but progressively I'm doing this of bringing music to family constellations and sometimes I like don't have the time maybe to compose what I want to compose, but recently I've been taking more time to take again my guitar, and take again my drums, and I hope to start composing about what I do. No, maybe I don't know.
I
That's my
was just
mind.
thinking,
Yeah,
because I know
yeah.
that you've got you when you sing, your
Mhm,
voice has got the magic in it as well.
mhm,
And I know that because I've heard you sing.
mhm,
And
mhm. Yeah.
I wonder,
Mhm,
how we have the healing sentences?
mhm.
Like, wow. Imagine if you were to even just to sing something into that. I don't know. It's
Well,
just
in constellations, I've done it like to sing in constellations. That I don't know what if that was the question. Maybe I took it by the I don't took right the question.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe I don't know. Like I don't have the like the composing these songs, but in constellations, I sometimes sing and it's wonderful. And like this, especially in that moments when a song is needed. I don't know when you are like
Mm.
this kind of hug with somebody that's like this kind of child, getting cared, and you sing these songs. That moments are very meaningful, maybe. And if you
Yeah,
start to sing,
definitely.
I hope,
Beautiful.
I think that I'm in process of more,
Oh, I
and
look
maybe
forward to it.
huh?
I look forward to seeing where it takes you.
Well, yeah, I think if we talk again, I don't know, in some time, I will tell you. Well, I'm doing a lot of more there. Maybe it's part of my process. I don't
Mm.
know. I'm 43. I like maybe always. I'm still like maybe having my work like taking all together in maybe it's more long forms in life, or perpetual
Yeah.
forms. If I can talk about something being perpetual. But I think that I'm doing that in right now, like making more integration, having this midlife crisis of of knowing what I really love to do,
Yeah.
and prioritizing my time. It's a very basic and human problem, but very very in the first plane to me right now. It's like
Mm.
taking the right decisions to do what I really really love, and I think that was I've been doing in the last years. I think that I'm still discovering it. It's like, okay, what about
Yeah.
music? What about poetry? And that's all things that I love. And maybe they are taking more place each time.
Yeah. And being able to integrate the things we love into the work that we do too, right?
Yeah,
And what we do doesn't have to look like anyone else.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was for
I
me
think
one
so.
of the big things, and
Mm,
such a relief to
mm,
be able to
mm,
go, doesn't have to
mm,
look like that. I
mm,
did have someone in my life who
mm,
mocked people a lot. Like
mm,
what was said wasn't very kind often. And
mm,
so
mm,
for a long time, I
mm,
held back with the changes that I was making.
mm,
And I'm no longer have that person in my life. So
mm, mm,
um,
yeah.
I'm in my
Well
own
done.
space. Okay,
Mhm,
this is what I want to do. This is what's coming through.
mhm,
I'm going to give it a try.
mhm,
And
mhm,
oh look, people want more of this, so that's good. Or oh well, that didn't work,
mhm,
so let's revisit
mhm,
that. And also having had a German teacher, learning and finding my way
mhm.
in that. So my teacher
Okay.
had learnt in Germany and was German and
Mhm,
came over
mhm,
here, and yeah, more of a bit more Kiwi style. Like we're
mhm.
a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that. I think that that's the path.
Mm.
I love what I do, but I'm very I think that there are some windows I still have to open, to more fresh
Mm.
air to come in. I think that I do a very loving work. I'm very happy for that. But sometimes I don't know. Maybe using my time better to be in more touch with music and all that can bring more that
Mm.
presence to what I do. And I resonate a lot with what you said. When I do it, something completely different happens. It's like the field moves different. People get in touch. I don't know. Maybe that silence that you can hold to wait,
Mm.
doesn't make the same movement compared to when I sing, and people just cry. Take a little time to cry or to I don't know, go to the floor in peace
Mm.
and without struggling anymore. So well, the same issue that we work a lot of as facilitators. It's like seeing my own path and see also my own relaxation to help others to relax themselves. So well, I think that I'm always learning in that sense. Yeah.
Have you seen any of Karl Hein Rausch's work?
No, 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 no. Tell
He
me, please.
does
Mm,
healing
mm,
voices
mhm,
with
mhm.
constellations.
Okay, great, great.
Um, and he does a lot online.
Mhm.
as well. Does workshops
Mhm.
and individual
Wonderful.
sessions online. So
Well,
do
I
you
will
work?
ask you. Yeah,
Sorry?
I will ask you the for the data to get in touch
Yeah.
with him.
Do you work online?
Yeah, I work online, mainly with individual sessions. Yeah, and it worked very, very powerfully.
Mm.
It's been a great discovery since the pandemic in 2020. I didn't believe it would work before the pandemic, and it's very wonderful. Yeah, I love it very much, and it's very different from all the other forms for the group, from the group online. It's very different, and from the individual in I don't know in my place where I work, it's very different. No, the online individual session. Right? Like,
Yeah, and I know that a lot of facilitators do it very differently. I
hmm
um I
hmm
had never been taught to do it online,
hmm
but I discovered that I ended
hmm
up somehow ended up with quite a few clients overseas. I don't even know how that
hmm
happened.
hmm
And so I had to teach myself how to do this online.
uh-huh.
I think it was probably people around New Zealand as well, not just overseas. And so I sort of created a way to do it.
hmm
And
hmm
then, and I haven't seen anyone do the same way, but
How do you do it?
is there a method or a way in which you do it? Do you do it
Uh-huh.
with objects or?
Yeah, yeah. I use objects. I have like this kind of hybrid form of working. I put my table with some objects, these figures. I don't know if I have them there. Well, here, there. I have like this kind of, of objects with faces, no, drawn in them, and
Mhm.
sometimes I use like little stones and things, and
Yep.
I open the field here, but also with imagery with the person, So the person, the constellation is the field is happening here in the inner experience of the person and in this kind of middle place, between us,
Mm.
and so it's making the I don't know. I tell the person like, let's prove if you walk a little bit to get closer to your mother, for example. So she does that in her imagination, and I also move the object in here, and it's been very moving, very wonderful, that work.
Mm.
I've seen a lot of changes. Maybe one of the most I don't know, maybe effective. I've get a lot of reports. It's very curious compared with I don't groups that all well also it happens. No, people tell you it's been good or not, but in the individual online sessions tends to be especially moving.
Mm.
When my students ask how do you work online, and I tell them, well, constellations have always been a working from distance. It never has been. It doesn't have to be with geographical distance.
Mm.
Never have been that. Always have been like like an online work in that sense. So we discovered the same maybe principle, of getting allied with something that's intangible that works, in people.
So if great, thank you. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they find you?
Instagram, I think, is the best way. No? Is Rodrigo Hagar. Altogether, Rodrigo, Hagar. And well, from there, I will answer your messages and I don't know, maybe get in touch with what you need. We're doing workshops always in Chile, Santiago, Pucón. So if you want to come here to this beautiful lands,
Oh, I
you're very
would love
welcome.
to. That would be amazing. And one day that will happen. So
That will happen, yeah.
yeah.
Or in the next encounter of ISCA also, maybe it will happen that we will may
Yeah.
surely join. I hope
Yeah.
that it will happen soon.
That would be beautiful. Well, thank you
Mhm.
so much for saying yes to coming in and chatting with me about constellation and all that. We've gone all over the place. It's great. Love
Thank you,
it.
Tracy. Thank you very much. I was
Yeah.
very pleased talking with you. Thank you. Thank you, and a big hug there.
Thank you. And if anyone's interested in reaching out to Rodrigo,
Mm.
yeah, find him on Instagram at Rodrigo Hagar. That's how we would say it, Hajar and Hagar. Get my letters in my alphabet right.
Great. No,
Um,
it's great. Great. Wonderful.
and I'll leave it there with you.
Anyway, bye bye.
Thank you for listening. head over to Instagram and tell me what's resonated for you with this episode. You'll find me at tracy.cartwright. That's Tracy with no E, .cartwright. Or head over to my website, tracycartwright.co.nz, and receive a free audio with the gift from your ancestors. So until next time, be kind to yourself and have fun doing it.